Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Bloomberg American Health Initiative Obesity in the Food Systems webinar. We are so excited that you guys took the time out to join us today. I'm Shannon Jones, the Communications Manager here for the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. Joining us, we'll have one of our Bloomberg Fellows, Mika Root, who's the Senior Projects Coordinator with Get Healthy Philly, based in Philadelphia. In addition to Mika, we'll have Amanda Wagner, who's the Program Manager of Nutrition and Physical Activity with Get Healthy Philly. We'll also be joined by Faria Zaman, our Fellowship Officer, and Shane Bryant, our Partnership and Engagement Officer. We wanted to go over a few housekeeping notes before we get started. There is a chat pod that is located to the right side of your screen. If you have any questions, feel free to type in questions. We are excited to answer any questions that you may have regarding the Obesity in the Food Systems focus area or the Bloomberg Fellows Program. Following the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session of which we'll address those questions. Technical support is available should you have any technical issues. Just simply type in whatever the issue is and tech support will assist. This is an audio-only webinar, so please be sure to mute and disable the audio on your devices. Today's webinar will be recorded and a link will be available and it'll be posted on our website. In addition, it'll be sent out via email through the Eventbrite portal. We ask that you revisit the link and share it with your colleagues and friends and anyone else that you can think of that may be interested in learning about the Bloomberg Fellows Program in the Obesity and the Food Systems focus area. Again, we're very, very excited that you all are here today and joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started with our content. Shane, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Shannon, and hello, everyone. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you all here via the webinar, and very excited to connect, answer questions, and hopefully answer some of those questions at the same time. So let's go ahead and go and get started here. So here at the Bloomberg American Health Initiative, our goal, our overarching goal, is really to improve the health of the United States. And we do that through a variety of collaborations, working with communities across the country, organizations, fellows, and faculty to ensure that we are planting deep roots to foster collaborations and work with folks who are on the ground in their community doing this work. So how did we get started? Well, back in 2015, the US saw for the first time in many years the life expectancy decline, and it has done so ever since. In 2016, here at the School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins University, we were celebrating our centennial. And Mr. Bloomberg, who is an alum of the school, wanted to provide a gift that would make a lasting impact. And so the thought leaders here at the school and at Bloomberg Philanthropies got together and eventually came up with and built out what is the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. And we're going to talk about the 5 focus areas really briefly, but we know that you are on and joining us today because you're interested in the obesity and the food systems focus area. So we'll make sure that we dive deeper into that. But we also want to talk about our approaches and our themes and why we're doing this work. So the 5 focus areas of the Bloomberg American Health Initiative are addiction and overdose, adolescent health, obesity and the food systems, environmental challenges, and violence. We take a very broad approach when we look at these various focus areas and understand that the work that you all are doing in your community could maybe fit into multiple focus areas. However, we do ask that folks apply into one specific focus area because it will inform the academic classes that you're taking and also the faculty advisement and support that we can provide here at the initiative. But just as an example, if you think of environment, we are really thinking certainly about climate change and air quality, but also within environment, we think about a community's built environment and how that can affect that community's health. Thinking about access to public transportation, thinking about the ways in which a community's walkability affects that community. Air quality in schools is another example. So when we think about obesity in the food systems, we're really looking at you all who who are doing this work. It might be in a community urban garden. It could be thinking about the transportation from farm to table. There's lots of different ways that your work can relate to obesity in the food system, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that and talking deeper. We're really excited that Mika can also share her experiences as a fellow in the obesity and the food system focus area. So the 5 focus areas, we also have 3 cross-cutting themes: equity, evidence, and policy. And when we think of equity, we are certainly thinking about the lived experiences that individuals have who are a part of this initiative, ensuring that we're finding, supporting, and working with folks who have a diversity of lived experiences, who come from communities all across the country. We are a national initiative, so we're looking to work with folks in East, West, Middle America, the Deep South, wherever you are. We want to make sure that we're getting the word out and finding opportunities to collaborate. Also within equity, we're thinking about finding and working with folks who haven't taken that traditional career trajectory towards public health. So if you are someone who hasn't done a bachelor's degree or who doesn't work at a health department, that is completely fine. And we're actually really excited to hear about your work and find ways that your work is actually very relatable to the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. For evidence, we're looking at supporting and creating strong data management systems to be able to both collect and analyze data that can better inform policies and programs, and also ensure that the data is being used to tell the story of your work. We recognize the importance of data and want to find ways to make sure rich data is being available and informing decision makers. And for policies, we really are looking at large-scale policy changes, certainly at the national, state, and local level, but also within organizations. We recognize that organizational policies can greatly affect how their team or staff members address and work with community. Now, real briefly, just to share, Mr. Bloomberg provided, again, a $300 million gift, and that's going to allow for us to bring in endowed faculty positions here at the school, 25, 5 across each of those 5 focus areas, that are going to be the folks who take innovative approaches to working in and with community, who are able to mentor fellows and collaborate and partner with community organizations. These are the folks we're really excited to bring on board, and for those of you who will become fellows, I'm excited for you to have the opportunity to work with them. And we're funding 50 Masters of Public Health degrees annually. This is, really something that Faria will dive deeper into, but a really wonderful and important opportunity for you all to be able to get a Masters of Public Health with no debt. So as I mentioned, we have 3 approaches: research, practice, and education. And in research, we're really looking to find those types of opportunities that, in working with faculty, to have an impact, shorter term, less than 1 year, creating a policy, a program, or a toolkit, and really not looking to fund research to write papers, but funding research to find solutions. Within practice, supporting those faculty and working in collaborations with some state and local leaders on problems and issues that they've identified in their communities. But really what we want to talk to you all about as folks who are interested in applying for the fellowship is the education approach. So I am going to turn it over to my colleague and dear friend, Faria, who's going to talk more about that.
Thank you, Shane. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I'd like to give everyone just an overview of the fellowship program. So the Bloomberg Fellows Program, it's a unique type of scholarship program in that it is impact-based, and it targets individuals who are working on the front lines of any of the 5 focus areas. Fellows center their studies in their particular focus area. They engage with their organizations during the course of their studies. And once they complete the MPH program, fellows will serve at least 1 year at their organization. And the organization joins an ongoing network of practice and research within the Bloomberg School of Public Health. Also, the initiative is working to build a very dynamic and diverse network of partnerships. We're trying to recruit a diverse range of organizations and fellows from both inside and outside the public health world. Fellows might come from local governments, they can come from police departments, libraries, community-based groups, housing authorities, school systems, just to name a few possibilities. And as Shane mentioned, the fellowship will recruit 50, that's 50 MPH fellows and 10 DRPH fellows moving forward. And the fellowship program, it's very flexible in that you can attend as a part-time student or a full-time student. The full-time program is 11 months on campus, whereas the part-time is mostly, almost entirely online. And as I mentioned, we are trying to recruit a very diverse range of fellows and organizations, and you can see on the slide, it'll just give you a snapshot of some of our organizations and where our fellows are coming from.
And so another way to kind of show, and here are some of our current fellows that are a part of the obesity and the food system focus area, you can certainly see that we have folks in all types of organizations, really, and all across the country. Folks who work for national organizations like Ashley at the American Heart Association, or individuals who are working for nonprofit groups that are looking at innovative laws, such as Phoebe and Change Lab Solutions. And so certainly, and Mila, even at the Institute for Family Health, a very local community-based organization working with and supporting community in New York City. And so, you know, regardless of what your work is in, the type of organization you work with, you know, we probably have a place for you, and we really want to learn and hear about the work that you're doing. Now, next, I'm excited to invite one of our fellows, and Mika can have the opportunity to share with you more about the work that she has been doing as a fellow, and certainly she'll stay on the webinar and answer any questions. Again, if you do have questions, feel free to start typing them into the chat function, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. But Mika, I'd love to turn it over to you to share a little bit more about how everything has been going so far.
Great. Can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Great. Thanks, Shane and Faria and Shannon. So my name is Mika Root. I am in my second year of a part-time online master's program at Hopkins through the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. I also work full-time at Get Healthy Philly, which is the colloquial name for the Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention at the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. The Philadelphia Department of Public Health is our local health department. Our mission is to protect and promote the health of all Philadelphians. Our work in our division is really looking at the fact that many of the leading causes of death and disability in our city could be prevented or at least delayed through a combination of freedom from tobacco, better nutrition, more physical activity. So what we look at is what are the ways that we can shape environments and shape policies and systems to make it possible for all Philadelphians to make healthy choices in our lives. My work specifically in that tends to focus on youth spaces within the city. So some examples of things I'm working on in collaboration with many of my colleagues here and our partners are working with the school district of Philadelphia to identify opportunities we did an assessment of how much physical activity was happening during the school day in elementary schools across the city, and identified opportunities to increase that, and are continuing to work with schools to bring that to life. With schools and rec centers increasing access to appealing tap water, and working with our Office of Sustainability and our water department to promote Philadelphia tap water as a healthy, environmentally friendly, and financially sustainable choice for all of us. And working in early childhood settings around implementing recommendations related to healthy beverages and screen time. So given that that is the sort of work that I do, for me, choosing a focus area was a very clear-cut decision to work in obesity and food system. And it has, when I talk in a minute about the benefits, it's incredible to be able to be doing this work and taking classes like, food systems and public health, or applying systems thinking to obesity. To be able to both be engaged in this practice every day in my work, and then to be learning, with others, and, like really delving deep into the evidence base behind the work I do, how all of these things work. Incredible. But back on choosing the focus area, we actually at Get Healthy Philly are lucky enough to have 3 of our staff people involved in the Bloomberg American Health Initiative as fellows. So I am in each of the first 3 years of the fellowship program, we have had someone, and I'm the middle one, and each of us are actually in different focus areas. So certainly if people have questions about, how we've all thought about that, I'm glad to go into that. So back on the benefits, I was trepidatious going into this experience. I graduated from college in 2000. It had been a long time since I had been in school, and I, had never done an online-based program. I work full-time. I have a full life. Wasn't sure how this would go. I cannot even express how much I am loving this experience. It is, I look forward to going home and doing my homework. It is so different, again, to be having this educational experience at the same time as working in this field is just such a rich experience. So I think, more specifically, I think some of the ways that this is really benefiting my own development and the work that I do is, classes through which I have learned how to really consume evidence and literature, how to think critically about it. One other thing I should maybe mention is I did not have a public health background before coming into my job here. I think a strength of Amanda and others on our leadership team has been building a team of people with very diverse backgrounds in what we bring to the table. So mine was in community organizing. And so I have learned as I've gone about, things related to public health evidence or statistical analysis. I had never taken classes in that. So to be able to actually take classes in that has been an incredibly rewarding experience. I think another real benefit, both in my work and in my studies, is the relationships with the other Bloomberg fellows, and being able to learn with each other. Most of us, or many of us, are working full time in addition to doing this work and work in school. And I think both to just sort of debrief on that experience, but also to share lessons from the work we're doing, and to be able to do that in such an organized and consistent way. All of us belong to different networks that have phone calls and whatever, but being in classes with people, it's an opportunity to go deeper, both within the specific focus area and then across the different focus areas. Something, I was taking at the Summer Institute this year, an amazing class that was actually developed through the Bloomberg Initiative, called Applying Systems Thinking to Obesity. And in the class were several other fellows, including some who were not in the obesity and food systems focus area. And I think some of the things that we were able to talk about, one of my fellows who is in the addiction and overdose focus area, bringing lessons from the work that they are really thinking about around stigma related to addiction and overdose and harm reduction, and how some of those same ideas and some of the breakthroughs that they are making in that field could really be applied in a lot of our work around obesity and food systems. So yeah, those are some thoughts, and definitely glad to answer questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Mika. And Amanda would also like to open up the line to you and hear as a collaborating organization and someone who works with a fellow, how this particular opportunity has benefited or affected the way that you do your work.
Sure, great. So Mika and I are next to each other, so hopefully you can also hear me. Is that right?
Oh, we certainly can. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So yeah. So I share Mika's enthusiasm for this initiative, and as she mentioned, we have been lucky enough that I have two people on my staff that I manage that have been able to have this opportunity. So it's been doubly great for me and for our organization. We're just very excited to be a part of this. And I think Mika touched on a lot of the things that I was going to say, but and just quick context. So I am Mika's supervisor, and I manage the nutrition and physical activity initiatives that we work on. We also have a manager that is on our tobacco policy and control, and a injury prevention program manager, as well as research policy and media leadership folks here. So so Mika's on my team, and we think about those cross-cutting initiatives that she mentioned. And I think the benefits that she raised, I agree with. One of the key things for Mika being able to sort of make those connections between practice and research has been really valuable for her work, and then thus our team's work. So really being able to do this work on a day-to-day basis, and then be immersed in what is the latest evidence, or what is the conversation that's happening in obesity and food systems, and the topics that come up there, and how can that both help us have space to think critically about what we're doing and how we might be doing it differently. So there was a scenario recently where I was actually, I also don't have a public health background, and I've been here for 9 years. I have a background in planning, city planning, and government administration, and have done work in food policy and anti-hunger work. But it's been a long time since I've been in grad school as well. So there was a time recently where I was asking Mika, when she came back from the summer intensive, what have you been hearing about thinking about climate change and obesity in the food system that we should be thinking differently about our work? And she was able to share things from her classes that they've been just talking about, and what has been the latest evidence that's coming forth on that since the last time that I was able to be sort of immersed in that space. So I think helping to think differently about what we should be doing, and then within her work, how can we apply very specific skills and the latest tools and the latest evidence. I think the work around tap water and thinking about water infrastructure and promotion, and how does that have cross connections with environmental health, has been another specific area within her work that I've seen immense value of having that connection between research and practice, and a network of both faculty and other fellows and students in that space. I think the other piece is, the gatherings of collaborating organizations and fellows. So I've gone to one, I think, and my supervisor has gone to a few with the fellows, but being able to be in a space with the other collaborating organizations and the fellows has been very helpful for our organization as well, just to get a better sense of what is this cutting edge and emerging innovative ways of doing public health, or thinking about these topics cross-sectorally and across the country, and how can we be bringing that back, and then also sharing what we're doing on this stage. I think I'll stop there, but I'm happy to answer questions, and again, just share the excitement and learnings that we're having through this with anybody that would like to talk about it.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda and Mika, both for sharing. I think that it's always valuable to hear from the folks who are involved, and so I hope we get some questions, and if folks have any specific questions for Amanda or Mika, we'd be more than happy to have them addressed and have them speak more to any specific questions that you have. So just continuing on, I promise we just have a few more slides, and then we will jump into your questions. We just wanted to share with you some of the examples of what the courses look like for the obesity and the food systems focus area. As I mentioned earlier, students would apply into a specific focus area, and that will really inform some of the courses that they'll take throughout their time as a student. So you can see, and I think Mika even mentioned some of the courses that she really has enjoyed taking, but food systems and public health, the epidemiology of diabetes and obesity, looking at food technology and how that affects health, infection immunity and undernutrition, the interactions and effects of all of those. And these are just really just are an example of some of the courses that are available to fellows that are going into obesity and the food systems. And just a really quick note, all of these courses are public health courses. Similarly, for the other focus areas, and if there are classes that people are really interested in taking in adolescent health, for instance, those classes are still open to you as a student. So these are just some of the courses that we lay out as a map, if you will, for the Obesity and Food Systems Fellows. So I'm going to turn it back over to Faria, who's going to talk about the different formats for the fellowship.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. So as I mentioned, the fellowship program is flexible in that for the MPH program, applicants can apply as full-time and part-time students. So the full-time format, it's 11 months in length, and it is here on campus in Baltimore. And it requires completing 5 8-week terms between June and May. And the terms start in early June, and students are required to take a couple of courses those first 2 weeks in June, and then you have the remaining 4 terms between September and May, and then you would graduate. And we are also very open to part-time students. So the online part-time program typically takes 2 to 3 years, taking an average between 1 to 3 courses per term. And it is almost entirely online, with the exception of the first 2 weeks when I mentioned you would have orientation and taking a couple of courses during that time. And everything else is available online, and students are also able to come in during the summer and take an in-person summer institute if they like.
We also have a variety of ways that we support fellows and collaborating organizations. One of the opportunities we're excited about is called the Applied Experience Award. And this award is given out to fellows to work with their organization on a specific project. I always tell folks that this is, that idea that you have in the back of your mind, if you just had a few extra dollars to do it, you'd be able to get it off the ground. Well, this is how we find ways to support fellows and their organizations while they are taking classes through the Bloomberg School of Public Health. So you can see we've done a data assessment project, we've done educational video assessing obesity rates through food outlets around churches in the Bronx. These are just a really an example of a few of those particular opportunities. We also find ways to support organizations based on their requests. So we have the resources to get faculty from Baltimore to that organization to provide guidance on policy changes, to look for research opportunities. We hear from the organizations on what their needs are, and then our role at the initiative is to find ways to fulfill those needs. Now, we've talked a lot about the courses, and something that we are always excited about is when we're creating new courses dependent upon the feedback that we're getting from the fellows and the organizations, because we really do want to make sure we're preparing you to be able to further your work. And so these are examples of some of the new courses that we've designed, and there's many more that are coming, especially as we bring on new faculty through the Professor of American Health. We have seminars that we provide for the fellows and everyone at their collaborating organizations in topics like leadership, communication, program implementation, and others. This really is a way to connect with leaders and practitioners and share that learning with the organization and the community.
Okay, I'd like to tell you a little bit about applying to the MPH program and the fellowship program. So we're excited to tell you that next week on August 1st, our fellowship applications will go live and will be available to everyone. So please keep an eye out on our website on August 1st. So to apply to the fellowship program, you have to apply to both the fellowship program and also the MPH program. So on the MPH side, you should review the requirements under the admissions tab on the MPH website. And applicants are required to complete and submit their application materials through SOFAS. And SOFAS is the name of the application processing system that the Bloomberg School uses. So that's one thing. The other thing is to apply to the fellowship, you would complete and submit a two-part fellowship application through our website. And so the two application forms include a form for the prospective student, and the second form is for the collaborating organization. And starting August 1st, you will find these forms on our website. You just download it right on our website, complete and submit those two forms together. And I also want to let you know that the deadline for the fellowship program, we have two. We have an early deadline of November 1st. And a final deadline for the fellowship program and the MPH program is December 1st. But I always like to tell people to apply early. If you apply by the November 1st deadline, and if you have any missing pieces, a transcript is missing or whatever, there's still enough time for you to submit that by the December 1st deadline. So it's always a good idea to apply earlier than later.
So just a few real quick key takeaways, and then sharing how you can stay connected with us. The Bloomberg American Health Initiative here is very much focused on impact, and we are looking through research, practice, and education to make that impact in collaboration with organizations and fellows across the country. A critical component is that training that we're providing to the future leaders, you all who are on the webinar today, and providing you the tools of public health that will then be able to be used in your respective communities. And our Bloomberg Fellows play a very vital role in working for the change that's happening today. Our fellows are quite literally all across the country and are working in all types of organizations and settings. And they are really the ones that are going to be moving us to a healthier tomorrow. And I know that you all on this webinar are going to be a part of that as well. So just a few notes to stay connected. Our website, the link there, americanhealth.jhu.edu, will have, again, the application when it becomes available. We'll send it out to you electronically as well for those who registered for the webinar. You can follow us on Twitter at American Health. We have a great newsletter that comes out every Friday, the American Health Dispatch. Please sign up to stay up to date on the various trends in public health as it relates to the 5 focus areas. Our podcast is an engaging way to hear about impact in public health in communities across the country. And on our YouTube channel, we bring together a lot of interesting talks and presentations that are of likely interest to you as well. So our contact information, my name again is Faria, and my name is actually Shane. I'm sorry, Faria, I took your name for a minute. But my name is Shane, and colleague Faria, our information is on the sheet there. And I'm looking forward to answering some of your questions. So it looks like, Jim, thank you for appreciating the music. We work hard to put that together for you, so we are thankful that you enjoy that. Tuesday Tuesday has a question. Can small business owners with a focus on public policy apply to the program? And absolutely yes, right, Faria?
Yes, absolutely. They're more than welcome to apply to the program. As long as the organization, whether it's a small business owner or a community-based organization, as long as they are doing work in any of the 5 focus areas.
Another question we have, are the courses, so we talked about some of the courses earlier in the presentation, are these courses both available for the MPH and the DRPH students?
Well, yes, they are. Not every course that's available for the MPH is also available for the DRPH, but there are a good number of courses that both are open to both degree programs.
Yeah, and again, just for a reminder to folks, if you have questions, please type it into the chat function so we can answer any questions that you might have. Another question is about the timeline for the DRPH program.
So the timeline for the DRPH program, For the fellowship, as I mentioned, we have that early deadline of November 1st, and so that applies to both the MPH and the DRPH. And then the final deadline to submit all of your admissions materials and everything for the DRPH, it has to be submitted through SOFIS, as I talked about before, and the deadline for that is December 1st.
Thank you, Faria. Looks like we're getting some questions on the DRPH program. And I would always say if there's any specific questions that we're not able to get to or we haven't addressed, feel free to drop us an email. But it looks like here we have a similar question, really kind of a specific question for you, Faria. Is it possible for someone to be a part of the DRPH health policy and management concentration, yet still focus on the obesity and the food systems as a Bloomberg Fellow?
Yes. So as a Bloomberg Fellow in the DRPH program, when you apply, you select one of your focus areas. And if, for example, it's obesity and food system, you can select a DRPH concentration. It's fine to do that as long as there's some connection between that DRPH concentration you're selecting and your fellowship concentration. And will it impact the curriculum? Well, I think depending on what your DRPH concentration is, you'll need to take certain courses under that concentration. And on the fellowship side, fellows are required to take some courses related to their particular focus area.
Great, thank you, Faria. So we answered the question about folks who are looking to apply for the DRPH and applying through SOFIS, which the answer is yes, you will be doing that. The typical duration of the DRPH program as a part-time student, how long does that typically take, Faria?
So that typically takes about 4 to 5 years. Now, the DRPH program does have a generous time frame of 9 years to complete the degree, but typically on a part-time basis, it takes between 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And again, great questions, folks, and coming in. Another one from Megan. Beyond the required courses, are there other additional requirements expected of fellows beyond the program requirements? So beyond the classes, what other requirements are there for fellows?
So Megan, that's a great question. The fellowship does require our fellows to take certain courses in their particular focus area, but it is not beyond the number of credits needed to complete the MPH degree. It's still within that framework. So it's not extra courses, but it is courses related to whatever your focus area is, but it doesn't go beyond the max needed to graduate.
Yeah, and maybe, Mika, if you're still on the line, maybe you have something you would like to share about certainly taking the courses that are a part of obesity and the food system, but other types of courses that you've taken as a student in the MPH program.
Yeah, and I think also just in terms of requirements, there's the one that I can't remember whether it was Shane or Faria mentioned earlier about working with your organization for a year after you finish the fellowship program. And then there are gatherings, there's a summit each year that we are invited to attend. Those are the only other real requirements I can think of. Other courses, so I think one thing that I would definitely recommend to anyone who's thinking about this is also just spending some time on the Hopkins course catalog website and looking at the requirements for the MPH program, because there are required core courses for either the MPH or the DRPH program, as well as the focus area specific courses that are required for the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. There is some overlap, and there is still room to take additional electives beyond either of those sets of required courses. But certainly, all of them have been rewarding, even ones that, were not necessarily biology, for example, was not one I was particularly jazzed about going into, but was able, again, because this is the work I am immersed in every day, to find the places where there was really useful stuff that I should know about how our bodies work, given the work that I do.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mika. And thank you for also mentioning the 1 year service requirement. So yes, all the fellows who complete their academics will need to continue working with their organization for at least 1 year. Our hope and goal is that it's much longer than that, but we recognize that life does happen. And so we certainly can't make it forever, but there is the 1 year work requirement. I will note that we will continue working with the organization, the collaborating organization, beyond the students' fellowship years and beyond that service year requirement. So as we seek to build our network, we aren't necessarily taking out organizations once someone graduates. And we're really excited about that. And then our summit, our annual convening, is a really interactive and energetic few days of bringing folks together. And we are always looking forward to that event, and lots of great planning goes into making it so successful. But great question, Megan, and thank you for asking. So I don't see any additional questions popping up in our chat bar. I will say and remind folks again that our contact information is listed here on the website. Should you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to Faria or myself, and we'll be sure to get you an answer. And just one last check on the chat bar. Looks like we're still good. So again, everyone, thank you for logging in and tuning in to the Bloomberg American Health Initiative webinar on the obesity and the food system focus area. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we're looking forward to reviewing and seeing your applications soon. Thank you so much.